when America became America, when the Constitution was written, when it was ratified and such, uh, there were three words at the very beginning of the Constitution. The three words are "we the people." And somebody who looked like me in 1787 in the 18th century was not considered a person. Okay, was not considered people. As a matter of fact, somebody who looked like you, unless you owned property, was not also considered a people. And any woman was not considered a people. And so the Constitution over the span of years have included different groups who are now considered people. But the interesting thing about the federal Constitution is this: even though it references enslaved Africans, it never directly mentions the word slavery. The only time that the federal Constitution ever mentions the word slavery is within the 13th Amendment.
The first time they use the word slave in the Constitution is when they're liberated, right? We can't talk about it until we fix it. It's almost as if the United States can't deal with its own shame. And I feel like that's something that plagues us to this day, right? Like this stain that has stayed with us. We're very bad at facing up to our mistakes sometimes.
The founding fathers did not want to deal with the issue of slavery, so they put it to a future generation. And that future generation in 1861, we have the Civil War. Okay, and after the Civil War, there was an attempt to deal with it with the passage of the Reconstruction Amendments, the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment.
The 13th Amendment, so Charles Sumner, who's a senator from Massachusetts, I think he got beat up on the floor one time for being an abolitionist senator. He wrote the initial version of the 13th Amendment. I'm going to read you the words that he used, and this was supported by President Lincoln, who obviously we know how that story ends. All persons are equal before the law, so that no person can hold another as a slave. The final language: neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. Those are two very different amendments, right? The first language, you get arrested for a crime, you go to jail, you come out, you're still a US citizen, you're solid, right?
Yeah.
All people equal before the law. The Second Amendment, if you get arrested, you have no rights, basically, if you get convicted of a crime. We see a spike right after the Civil War in arrests of Black Americans, right? We today live in a country that I think by far has the largest prison population in the world. How has white supremacy sort of been perpetuated by the existence of the 13th? And you guys could go watch the documentary 13th, which is going to do a better job than probably we are of having this conversation. But go ahead, Gay.
Okay, so the language, as you said, the 15th Amendment is essentially this compromise, because if the original language you read was included inside there, I don't think a lot of the stuff that we've seen happening from 1865 to 2020 would have happened in America. It'd be some other reality. Okay, nobody can own anybody, and that's it. It's over and done. Okay, unfortunately, we got the amendment that we got, and most legislation essentially is compromised. Okay, so what happened? The southern states and some of the Midwestern states realize now, hey, look at the language. If you get convicted, you're reduced to slavery. So let's arrest these individuals who broke the law, give them a fair trial, find them guilty, and then, hey, we have our slave population back. And so convict leasing, that's the outgrowth of this. So what were Black individuals arrested for? Whistling. What were whistling as they're walking down the street? What would a Black person be arrested for? Loitering, okay? Two, three or more people gathering on the sidewalk, okay, you can be arrested because you're vagrant right now. Any reason I can think of, you can be arrested for.
So all these laws right after the Civil War, they pop up throughout the South, right? We're talking,
Correct.
and these are called the Black
I
Codes,
call
is right.
correct.
And you could be arrested for violating a labor contract with the person who used to own, right? The whole thing was super messy and complicated. There were promises made to it freed folks by General Sherman. They were thrown out after Lincoln was killed, right? And so we've never really dealt with sort of the ramifications of locking up generations of African Americans, never really giving them an opportunity economically. And so I think when we're talking about sort of what the country's screaming about today, we have to talk about this history a little bit.
Yeah, because what we're experiencing today is a direct outgrowth of that. You mentioned the significant black population in prison. Well, it was profitable. You know, we, I'm sure people have heard about chain gangs. Okay, and so they're profitable. You can make money now. You can have somebody arrested, have the trial, he or she is convicted for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and now you have that person's labor for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And so these things, these institutions that develop become very, very profitable. And so you have communities that are able to build up their wealth and build up their community because of convict leasing, because of chain gangs, because of these individuals who have now been reduced to enslavement. And so even in 21st century America, with the whole idea of build more prisons, well, the reason why there's always these push to build more prisons isn't because we're afraid of all of these people, and some people are, but it's because the prison industrial complex is very profitable for a lot of individuals.
I mean,
So that's just
to
the
give you
reality.
guys all an example, some of the hand sanitizer that we're using in New York to fight COVID is made by prisoners, not making what is stipulated by law for everybody else, because according to the 13th Amendment, they don't have rights. They don't have access to these civil liberties.
And many people always make the point that the criminal justice system is broken and such. It's not broken. It's just doing what it was supposed to do. We're now beginning to realize that what it was supposed to do and what it's doing hasn't been helpful for a significant portion of Americans, for a significant portion of history.
I want to get to the 14th Amendment because this is an interesting one, right? So to deal with the question of these enslaved people who previously weren't citizens and now they are citizens, in the Constitution, do you have it? I'm sure you have it memorized because you're such a nerd.
Oh God!
What is it?
All persons born or naturalized are citizens of the United States and of the states in which they reside. It's something like that. I'm paraphrasing.
You were close. You were close. All persons born or naturalized in the United States you've missed this clause, because everybody remembers are subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So all people born in the United States are citizens. That's different than a lot of countries throughout the world, right? If you go to Europe, they don't have that, right? We are unique in that way, and I would argue it's actually made us the melting pot that we like to talk about and brag about in past tense, but don't like to deal with in the present. It has made us accessible to immigrants who say, maybe I won't be a citizen right away. My children will be. I can actually give them a future. Whereas if you're immigrating to France and you're born there, that doesn't mean anything, right? And so it gives people hope and a future. And I think it encourages immigration in a way that has made us so strong, especially in New York City, where we are a large percentage, 30-something, I think, percent of New York City is immigrants.
If your kids and grandkids and great-grandkids are born here, guess what? They are now citizens of the United States.
And so this is a really big deal I would say, for a few reasons. But one is we have to walk backwards a little bit. The 1790 Naturalization Act, which said that only white people could become naturalized citizens, right? So when the 14th Amendment says if you're born here, you're a citizen, you still can't become a naturalized citizen if you're coming from China or someplace else where you're not considered white, but your children can be, and they are.
Mhm.
And so we become this multicultural nation of citizens in a way that previously we had not been.
Correct. That particular clause in the 14th Amendment, essentially, actually at the beginning of the 14th Amendment, it essentially gives you dual citizenship, and not dual citizenship in the sense of being a citizen of the United States and some other country. You are, what the 14th Amendment does, it makes you a citizen of the United States and whatever state in which you reside. And so you have this idea of, dual American citizenship, if I can say that. So you're a citizen of the United States because you are born here, and you're a citizen of New York because you reside in New York. But if you leave New York and you go to California, you're still a citizen of the United States, but now you are a citizen of California because why? You are now residing in California. So that particular clause that was added to the Constitution, okay, at the end of American enslavement, okay, gave the enslaved Africans now who were essentially born in the United States citizenship within the United States.
I want to jump to the 15th Amendment, though. Do you have that one memorized, Gary?
The right of individuals to vote shall not be denied or abridged on account of race, something, and previous condition of servitude.
My
General.
gosh, you're a computer. I'm talking to Wikipedia over here.
So what does it say exactly?
I don't know. I actually don't have it written down. I'm just taking your word for it.
Okay, I actually have the Constitution here.
Of course you do.
So, because I'm a geek. So let me just read it correctly. Oh, it says, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, and or previous condition of servitude. Oh,
you missed that word. So the reason that this gets passed actually is sort of interesting, right? So it's 1870 and there's an election, and you have all of these scared Republicans. This is capital R Republicans started by Lincoln. We could talk about sort of how the racial dynamics of the political parties have shifted over time. Maybe we'll get to that at a different lecture. But at this point, most African Americans were sympathetic to the Republican cause because the Republicans kind of started on the principle of abolition, getting rid of slavery, just about a decade earlier. And so, but 1870 rolls around and there's about to be an election and they're scared of their position in southern states. What can we do? Well, if we give the vote to all of these people who are sympathetic to us because we just ended slavery, then we could win some elections, right? And so they give African Americans, formerly enslaved folks, the right to vote in 1870, and then from then on, nobody ever had trouble voting again, right, Gary?
You're being facetious. No, I wish that were the case, but no.
But it's in the Constitution. How could this possibly be?
Oh, easy. I mean, once I know what the law is, I know how to get around the law. It's very easy. And so if the Constitution now says that Black individuals have the right to vote, let's qualify one thing. In 1870, only Black males who were 21 years of age or over had the right to vote, just like only white males who were 21 years of age or over had the right to vote.
But I'm sure right away, like very quickly afterwards, probably women got the right to vote, right?
You had to wait until 1920, so you had to wait until
So
the 20th century.
50 years later. 50
You had to wait until you get to the 20th
later.
century. Okay, the enlightened century to do that. But no, one of the reasons that that the whole idea of Black males voting becomes problematic is now you have Black males who are now in Congress. You have Black senators who get elected to Congress. You have Black individuals who are now sheriffs. You have Black individuals who are now part of state legislature. And just imagine that a white individual who probably owned a black individual who now not only has to say that this person is free, but this person is now the sheriff. This person is now my representative in Congress. Okay, could you imagine the mindset of that person? Looking at somebody who maybe his father or he or she owned, and now saying that this person is now my representative in Congress. And so it's like, no, this is not going to happen. And so by the time we get into the 1870s, there's this really major push to undo a lot of the, to undo some of this stuff and to prevent Black Americans from being able to exercise their rights to vote.